The blood hit the floor at exactly 11:47 p.m., the first time in 32 years that rule had been broken. They say silence is golden. They're wrong. Silence is a choice, and in that Brooklyn diner, everyone made it, everyone except her. Ava Carter learned the hard way that being invisible doesn't make you safe. It makes you a target. And when the wrong man noticed her quiet strength, he mistook it for weakness. Big mistake. This is the story of what happens when silence shatters. Stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and broken promises. Ava Carter had worked at Sal's Corner for 8 months, 3 weeks, and 4 days. She knew because she counted everything now. Steps from the subway, cracks in the sidewalk, hours until her shift ended. Numbers kept her grounded. Numbers didn't lie or hit or follow you home drunk at 3 in the morning. She moved through the Friday night rush with practiced efficiency, refilling cups before they emptied, clearing plates the moment forks stopped moving. The vinyl booth cushions had seen better decades, cracked and patched with duct tape that never quite matched. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, one of them flickering with a rhythm she'd memorized. 3 seconds on, half second off. Repeat. Coffee, hun. She kept her voice neutral, her smile slight. Not too friendly, not too distant. The businessman in booth 7 nodded without looking up from his phone. Ava poured, her movements economical. No wasted energy, no unnecessary conversation. This was her system. This was survival. Ava, you got table 12. That was Marcus, the night cook, calling from the kitchen window. His voice carried the weight of 20 years working the same grill, flipping the same eggs, asking the same questions that nobody answered. Table 12. She glanced over. 2 men she didn't recognize, which meant nothing in Brooklyn. The diner pulled in everyone, cab drivers finishing their shifts, cops too tired to go home, insomniacs who couldn't stand their own company, dealers who needed neutral ground, working girls grabbing something hot before dawn. And the rule, Sal's one rule, kept them all civil. No violence, not ever, not for any reason. Sal Benedetto had opened this place in 1991 with money nobody asked about and a reputation that preceded him like thunder before lightning. The rule wasn't painted on the walls or printed on the menu. It didn't need to be. Everyone knew, everyone respected it, until they didn't. Ava approached table 12, order pad ready. What can I get you? The first man was broad-shouldered, his jacket expensive but worn at the elbows. He ordered eggs and hash browns without meeting her eyes. The second man was different, leaner, sharper. His gaze tracked her movements like a cat watching something small and wounded. You knew? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Been here a while. Ava kept her tone flat. What'll you have? What's good here? Everything's good. She didn't elaborate, didn't engage. You always this friendly? The first man shifted uncomfortably. Logan, just order. Logan. She filed the name away in the part of her brain that cataloged potential problems. Burger, rare. Logan leaned back, his smile widening. And your number? I'll get your burger. She turned away. His laugh followed her to the kitchen, low and mean. Marcus glanced up when she clipped the order ticket. Trouble? No. But her hands were shaking slightly as she grabbed the coffee pot. She steadied them through force of will. She'd survived worse than some asshole hitting on her. She'd survived Danny. The thought of her ex-husband arrived like a fist to the sternum, sudden and breathtaking. 3 years since she'd run. 3 years of looking over her shoulder, changing her hair, her name, her entire existence. 3 years of becoming someone forgettable. Order up! Marcus slid plates across the window. The night continued its familiar rhythm. More customers, more coffee, more small kindnesses and smaller conversations. Ava existed in the margins of other people's lives, exactly where she needed to be. But Logan kept watching. She felt his attention like humidity before a storm, oppressive and inescapable. Every time she passed his table, his eyes followed. When she refilled his water, he let his fingers brush hers. When she brought his burger, he made a show of examining it, taking his time, making her wait. This doesn't look rare. I can have them remake it. Nah. He took a bite, chewed slowly. Sit with me. I'm working. Take a break. I'm good. His jaw tightened, the first crack in his charming facade. "You're being rude." "I'm being professional." Ava kept her voice level. "Can I get you anything else?" The restaurant had gotten quieter. Not silent. The clatter of dishes continued, the murmur of other conversations. But there was a shift in the atmosphere. People were listening without appearing to listen, watching without turning their heads. Logan's companion touched his arm. "Come on, man. Let's just eat." "I'm trying to be nice here." Logan's voice rose slightly. "I'm trying to have a conversation, and this bitch acts like I'm bothering her." "Sir, I need you to lower your voice." "Or what?" He stood up. Not threatening, not yet, but the potential was there in the tightness of his shoulders, the set of his jaw. Ava took a step back. Muscle memory from a marriage that taught her to read violence before it erupted. "I'm going to ask you to sit down. I'm going to ask you to show some respect." Around them, the diner had gone quiet now. Marcus appeared in the kitchen window, his expression dark. Two cops at the counter, real cops, not the kind on someone's payroll, shifted on their stools but didn't stand. Nobody ever stood. The rule protected everyone, but it also paralyzed them. Violence was forbidden, which meant intervention was complicated. If you stopped a fight, weren't you participating in it? If you threw a punch to prevent a punch, weren't you breaking the rule just the same? So they watched. They always watched. "Please sit down," Ava repeated. Her voice was steady, but her heart hammered against her ribs. "I'll have Marcus make you a new burger." "I don't want a new burger." Logan took a step closer. "I want you to stop acting like you're too good for me." "I'm not. You are. I can see it in your face, that look, like I'm trash. That's not. You know what you are?" His voice dropped to something almost intimate, more dangerous than shouting. "You're nothing, a waitress in a shithole diner, and you're treating me like I'm beneath you?" Ava's hands curled into fists at her sides. She'd promised herself 3 years ago, never again. Never again would she shrink. Never again would she let someone make her feel small. "I'm going to walk away now," she said quietly. "And you're going to sit down and finish your meal. Or you can leave, but this conversation is over." She turned. Later, she would replay that moment 1,000 times. The decision to turn her back, the choice to believe the rule would protect her. Logan grabbed her wrist. The diner seemed to inhale as one organism. Every conversation stopped. Every fork froze halfway to waiting mouths. "Let go." Ava's voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that came from years of managing rage you couldn't afford to show. "You don't walk away from me. Let go of my wrist." His grip tightened. "Make me." The two cops at the counter exchanged glances. One of them half rose, then sat back down. The line between intervention and violation was too thin, too blurry. Marcus came out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. "Logan Pierce, right?" Logan's eyes flicked to him. "Yeah? You need to let her go and leave." "Or what, old man?" "Or you're breaking the rule." "I'm not hitting her." Logan's smile was vicious. "I'm just talking. That against the rules, too?" Ava used his momentary distraction to twist her wrist free. She'd learned that move from a self-defense class in her old life, before Danny broke her ribs for daring to take it. Logan's face darkened. "You little—" "That's enough." A new voice, deep and rough as gravel. Ava looked up to see a man she'd noticed before, always in the corner booth, always alone. He was maybe 40, maybe older, with the kind of face that had seen things people don't come back from unchanged. His suit was impeccable, his posture relaxed, but there was something coiled about him, something dangerous. "This isn't your business, old-timer." Logan's bravado was automatic, but Ava heard the uncertainty beneath it. "Everything in this diner is my business." The man's voice was quiet, definitive. "You're done here." "Who the fuck are you?" The entire diner went silent. Even the hum of the fluorescent lights seemed to pause. "You don't know who I am?" The man sounded almost amused. "Then you're dumber than you look." Logan's companion grabbed his arm. "Logan, we should go." "I'm not going anywhere because some Roman Castell." The man said his own name like a period at the end of a sentence, like nothing more needed saying. Logan's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, recognition, fear. "Oh shit," he breathed. I wasn't." You were leaving. Roman Castell didn't raise his voice, didn't need to. Weren't you? Logan nodded, his earlier aggression evaporating. Yes, we're leaving. He threw cash on the table, too much cash, and hurried toward the door, his companion close behind. At the threshold he paused, looking back at Ava with something ugly in his eyes. Not quite hate, not quite fear. Something in between that promised this wasn't over. The door closed. The diner exhaled. Roman Castell returned to his booth without another word, his coffee waiting exactly where he'd left it. Ava stood frozen, her wrist still tingling where Logan had grabbed her. Marcus touched her shoulder gently. You okay? She nodded, not trusting her voice. Take 5. Go to the back. The staff bathroom was small and smelled like industrial cleaner and old pipes. Ava locked the door and gripped the edge of the sink, staring at her reflection. Same brown eyes, same carefully neutral expression, same woman who'd learned to disappear. But her hands were shaking. She ran cold water, splashed her face, forced her breathing to slow. This was nothing. Logan was nothing. Just another man who thought he had a right to her attention, her time, her body. She'd left Danny. She'd crossed state lines and changed her name and built a new life from nothing. She could handle one asshole in a diner. When she emerged, Marcus had cleared table 12. The dinner rush was winding down. The 2 cops were gone. Roman Castell still sat in his corner booth, reading a newspaper like nothing had happened. You sure you're good? Marcus asked. I'm fine. That guy Logan, he's got a reputation, works for the Calabrese family. Thinks he's tougher than he is, but he's connected enough to be dangerous. I'm fine, Ava repeated, and this time she almost believed it. The rest of the shift passed without incident. By 2 a.m., the diner had cleared out except for the insomniacs and the dealers doing business over cold pancakes. Roman Castell had left sometime after midnight, his usual generous tip folded under his coffee cup. Ava wiped down tables, restocked napkins, prepared the diner for the morning shift. The routine soothed her. Predictability was safety. You heading out? Marcus asked as she hung up her apron. Yeah. Want me to walk you to the subway? I'm okay. Ava, I'm okay, Marcus. The February air hit her like a slap, cold and sharp. Brooklyn at 2:30 a.m. was never truly silent. Sirens in the distance, the rumble of a truck, voices carrying from a bar 3 blocks over. Ava pulled her coat tighter and started walking. She'd chosen this neighborhood specifically for its demographics. Diverse enough that she didn't stand out. Busy enough that one more face disappeared into the crowd. Poor enough that people minded their own business. Her apartment was a 4th-floor walk-up, tiny and clean and completely impersonal. No photos. No mementos. Nothing that spoke to who she'd been before. Ava locked the door behind her. 3 locks. Installed the day she moved in, and leaned against it, finally allowing herself to feel the weight of the evening. Logan Pierce. She'd seen men like him before. Hell, she'd married one. Men who needed to dominate to feel alive. Men who interpreted kindness as weakness and indifference as challenge. Danny had been charming at first. Attentive, protective. The protection had turned to possession. Possession to control. Control to violence so casual it became the weather they lived in. Scattered storms, heavy clouds. Occasional breaks of sunshine that made you forget the rain was coming. She'd left on a Tuesday. Danny had been at work. She'd packed 1 bag, clothes, documents, the $1,347 she'd been hiding in a tampon box for 8 months. She'd walked out of their apartment in Pittsburgh and never looked back. 3 years. 3 years of keeping her head down, her voice quiet, her existence minimal. And now Logan Pierce had noticed her. Ava went through her nightly routine with mechanical precision, checked all 3 locks, verified the window was secure, set her phone alarm. The studio apartment was dark except for the streetlight filtering through cheap curtains. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and counted. 1. The number of times Logan had touched her. 8. The months she'd been at the diner. 3. The years since she'd run. 29. Her age, though her fake ID said 31. Numbers. Safe. Quantifiable. Real. Sleep came eventually, thin and troubled, full of dreams that felt like memories and memories that felt like prophecy. She woke to her alarm at 9 a.m., the winter sun struggling through the curtains. Saturday meant a double shift, 10 a.m. to closing. 14 hours. Good money. Better distraction. The subway was crowded with weekend shoppers and tourists who couldn't figure out the map. Ava stood with one hand on the pole, her body swaying with the rhythm of the train, her mind carefully blank. The diner looked different in daylight, less atmospheric, more honest about its age and where. Sal's Corner had been here since before the neighborhood gentrified, a holdout among the organic cafes and artisanal bakeries that had colonized the surrounding blocks. Morning! Keisha, the day shift waitress, was refilling salt shakers. Heard you had some excitement last night. Word travels fast. Marcus texted me, said Logan Pierce was being a dick. He was fine. The lie came easily. Just drunk. Logan doesn't drink. Keisha looked up, her dark eyes serious. He gets high on his own bullshit, but he doesn't drink. Whatever happened, it wasn't alcohol. Ava hung up her coat. It's handled. Roman stepped in? Yeah. Then it's definitely handled. Keisha went back to the salt shakers. Roman doesn't involve himself in small shit. If he said something, Logan will listen. The lunch rush started early. Families, couples, groups of teenagers taking up entire booths to split one plate of fries. Ava moved through her sections, her smile automatic, her efficiency practiced. At 2 p.m., Roman Castell walked in. He took his usual booth without waiting to be seated. Ava felt her stomach tighten. She'd been working here for months, and in all that time, Roman had been part of the furniture. Present, but unremarkable. She'd poured his coffee hundreds of times and never once wondered who he was. Now she couldn't stop wondering. She approached with a menu, even though he never looked at it. Coffee? Please. His voice was the same as last night, quiet, controlled, containing depths she didn't want to explore. She poured, her hand steady. Thank you, he said. For? The coffee. You're welcome. She turned to go, but he spoke again. Are you all right? The question stopped her. Not because it was unexpected, plenty of people had asked her that in the past 12 hours, but because he sounded like he actually wanted to know the answer. I'm fine. Logan can be persistent. I can handle myself. I don't doubt that. Roman added cream to his coffee with careful precision. But persistence and power are a dangerous combination. I'm fine, she repeated, her tone firmer. He nodded, accepting the dismissal. The meatloaf today? It's good. Marcus makes it fresh on Saturdays. I'll have that, and the apple pie after. She wrote it down, grateful to return to the script. Order, serve, clear, repeat. Simple, safe. The afternoon crawled by. Her feet ached. Her lower back protested. But the physical discomfort was grounding, a reminder that she existed in the present, not the past. At 6 p.m., Logan Pierce walked in. The diner wasn't crowded, too early for the dinner rush, too late for lunch stragglers. Maybe 15 people scattered across the booths and counter stools. Keisha had gone home. Ava was alone on the floor. Logan stood in the doorway, scanning the room until he found her. Then he smiled. Ava's throat went dry. He took a booth in her section. Not his table from last night, but close enough to make a point. His companion from yesterday wasn't with him. He was alone. Marcus appeared at the kitchen window. Want me to handle him? No? Ava's voice was steady. I've got it. She approached the booth with her order pad ready, her expression carefully neutral. What can I get you? Coffee. Logan's smile widened, and an apology. I'll get your coffee. I'm serious. He leaned back, spreading his arms across the top of the booth, claiming space. You were rude last night. You embarrassed me. I think you owe me an apology. I'm going to get your coffee. I'm trying to be nice here. His voice carried across the diner. People were looking now, that same horrible attention from last night. I came back to give you another chance. The least you could do is say you're sorry. For what? For being a bitch. The word hung in the air. Ava felt her face flush, not with embarrassment, but with rage so pure it was almost clarifying. I'll get your coffee, she said again. In the kitchen, her hands shook as she poured. Marcus stood close, his expression dark. I can throw him out. You can't touch him. That breaks the rule. Fuck the rule. No. Ava met his eyes. The rule is the only thing keeping this place neutral. You break it, everything changes. She carried the coffee back out, her movements controlled. Logan watched her approach with something like satisfaction in his eyes. She set the cup down. Anything else? Sit with me. I'm working. I'm asking nicely. And I'm declining nicely. His hand shot out, wrapping around her wrist again. Tighter this time, hard enough to hurt. You think you're better than me? His voice was low, meant only for her. You think because Roman Castell scared me last night, I'm going to let this go? Let go of my wrist. You need to learn some manners. Let go. Make me. The diner had gone quiet again. That awful, complicit silence. People watching, doing nothing. The rule paralyzed them, and Logan knew it. Ava looked down at his hand, then up at his face. I'm going to count to 3. Then I'm going to scream loud enough that everyone in this place will have to acknowledge what you're doing. 1. You won't. 2. You're bluffing. 3. He let go, shoving her hand away hard enough that she stumbled back a step. Crazy bitch. Ava steadied herself. You need to leave. Or what? You'll get your boyfriend to save you again? I'll call the police. Logan laughed. And tell them what? That I ordered coffee? That I asked you to sit down? He stood, throwing money on the table. You don't get it yet, but you will. Nobody says no to me. Nobody. He walked out, and the diner slowly resumed its normal rhythm. Conversations picked back up. Silverware clinked against plates. Life continued. But Ava stood frozen, her wrist throbbing, her heart racing. Marcus came out of the kitchen. I'm calling Sal. No. Ava, no, I can handle this. This isn't handling it. This is hoping it goes away. I'm fine. She wasn't fine. Her hands shook as she cleared Logan's table. Her chest felt tight. Her vision had narrowed to a pinpoint of focus that she recognized as the beginning of a panic attack. She made it to the bathroom before it hit fully. The walls seemed to close in. Her breathing came in short, sharp gasps. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the cold. Danny's voice in her head, clear as a bell. You think you can leave me? You think anyone else will want you? You're nothing without me. Nothing. But she'd left him. She'd survived. She could survive Logan Pierce. Ava splashed cold water on her face, forced her breathing to slow, counted backward from 100 until the panic receded. Then she dried her hands, fixed her hair, and went back to work. The night shift brought the usual crowd. Roman Castell didn't return. Logan didn't return. The hours passed in a blur of orders and cleared tables and coffee refills that never ended. At 2:15 a.m., Ava hung up her apron and stepped out into the February cold. The street was quieter than last night. No sirens, no distant voices, just the hum of the city at rest, never quite sleeping. She made it half a block before she heard footsteps behind her. Ava didn't turn around, didn't run. She'd learned in her marriage that running triggered the chase. Instead, she walked faster, her keys already laced between her fingers like makeshift brass knuckles. The footsteps matched her pace. 1 block, 2 blocks. The subway entrance was ahead, lit and warm and public. Safe. Ava, Logan's voice, close, too close. She ran. Behind her, his laugh, low and mean and promising violence. Ava hit the subway stairs at full speed, her feet pounding on concrete, her breath sharp in her lungs. The late-night attendant looked up from his phone as she burst through the turnstile without swiping her card. Hey! She kept running down to the platform where a handful of people waited for the train. Safety in numbers, safety in witnesses. But Logan didn't follow her through the turnstile. When Ava finally looked back, he was gone. She rode the subway home with her heart hammering, hyper-aware of every person in the car, every stop, every opening door. At her building, she checked the street 3 times before unlocking the front entrance. In her apartment, she engaged all 3 locks and dragged a chair against the door for good measure. Then she sat on the floor and cried, not from fear but from exhaustion, from the weight of carrying hypervigilance like a second skin, from 3 years of running and hiding and trying to disappear. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text was simple. You can't hide forever. Ava deleted it, blocked the number. But she knew it wouldn't matter. Logan Pierce had decided she was his project, his challenge, his property, and she had no idea how to make him stop. Ava didn't sleep that night. She sat on her kitchen floor with her back against the refrigerator, listening to every creak of the building, every footstep in the hallway. The chair she'd wedged under the doorknob seemed flimsy now, inadequate. Everything seemed inadequate. At dawn, she made coffee with shaking hands and stared at her phone. 3 more texts had come through from different numbers, all blocked now, all variations of the same message. He was playing with her, letting her know he could reach her whenever he wanted. The Sunday shift started at 11. Ava called in sick for the first time since she'd started working at Sal's Corner. Marcus didn't sound surprised. "You need me to come over?" "I'm fine." "That's what you keep saying, and it keeps being bullshit." "Marcus, look, I get it. You got your reasons for keeping to yourself. But Logan Pierce isn't the type to get bored and move on. He's got a mean streak and too much free time." Ava pressed her forehead against the cool wall. "What do you want me to do? Go to the cops? Tell them a guy asked me to sit with him?" "Tell them he's stalking you." "With what proof? Some texts from burner phones? They'll file a report and do nothing." "Then let me talk to some people." "No." The word came out sharp. "No people. No favors. I don't want to owe anyone anything." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "You're going to have to trust somebody eventually." "I trust you." "Then trust me when I say you can't handle this alone." After he hung up, Ava stood in her apartment and took inventory. She had $4,200 saved, enough to run again, find another city, another diner, another anonymous life. But she was tired of running. She'd rebuilt herself once already. Changed her name from Sarah Mitchell to Ava Carter. Changed her hair from blonde to brown. Changed everything about herself except the core fear that lived in her chest like a second heart. Running wouldn't fix that. Running just meant Logan won. By Monday, she'd convinced herself she was being paranoid. He'd sent some texts. He'd followed her once. That didn't mean he was dangerous. Danny had been dangerous. Broken ribs, black eyes, a concussion that left her vision blurry for 3 weeks. Logan was just a bully who didn't like being told no. She went to work. The diner felt different now. She noticed things she'd trained herself not to see. The lack of security cameras, the back exit that didn't lock properly, how isolated the kitchen was from the dining room. Vulnerabilities everywhere. "You look like hell," Keisha said by way of greeting. "Thanks. I'm serious. You okay?" "Didn't sleep well." "Logan came by yesterday. Asked about you." Ava's stomach dropped. "What did you tell him?" "That I wasn't your social secretary." Keisha refilled the napkin dispensers with sharp, angry movements. "He sat in your section for 2 hours, ordered coffee, and left a $100 tip. He's trying to get under my skin." "Yeah? It working?" Ava didn't answer. The morning shift was slow. February in Brooklyn meant people stayed home, ordered delivery, avoided the cold. Ava was grateful for the emptiness. Fewer witnesses to her nerves. At 1 p.m., Roman Castell walked in. He took his usual booth, and Ava brought coffee without being asked. She'd noticed he drank it the same way every time, 2 creams, no sugar, in the specific chipped mug he seemed to prefer. "Thank you." He looked up at her, and for the first time she really saw his eyes. Dark, tired, old in a way that had nothing to do with age. "You're welcome. You weren't here yesterday." It wasn't a question, but it felt like one. Ava kept her expression neutral. "I was sick." "Are you better now?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Logan Pierce has been asking about you, your schedule, where you live." The coffee pot in her hand felt suddenly heavy. "How do you know that?" "People talk to me." "Why?" "Because I listen." Roman added cream to his coffee. "And because I pay well for information." "I don't need your help." "I didn't offer it." "Then why are you telling me this?" He met her eyes directly. "Because knowledge is currency. You should know what you're dealing with." "I know what I'm dealing with. A man with an ego problem." "Logan's ego is the least dangerous thing about him." Roman took a sip of coffee. "He works for the Calabrese family. Collections, mostly. Intimidation. He's good at hurting people who can't fight back." "I'm not scared of him." "Then you're not paying attention." The bluntness of it stung. Ava set the coffee pot down harder than necessary. "I've dealt with worse." "I don't doubt that." Roman's voice softened slightly. "But dealing with something doesn't mean you have to do it alone. I work better alone." No one works better alone. They just work safer. There's a difference. Ava wanted to argue, but Marcus called from the kitchen that her order was up. She escaped gratefully, carrying plates to the handful of customers scattered throughout the diner. When she returned to refill Roman's coffee, he was reading a newspaper. The headline was about city council corruption. Nothing that mattered to people like her, people on the margins who'd learned that power only cared about you when it wanted something. "The meatloaf today?" Roman asked without looking up. "It's Monday. We have the pot roast." "I'll have that." She wrote it down, started to walk away. "Ava." She stopped. "Logan will escalate. That's what men like him do. They can't tolerate rejection because it threatens their sense of control." He turned a page of the newspaper. "When he does, you'll have a choice. You can call the police, who will do nothing. You can run, which is temporary. Or you can end it." "End it how?" Roman finally looked at her. "That depends on how far you're willing to go." The conversation haunted her through the rest of her shift. She kept replaying his words, trying to decode the subtext. Was he offering help? Making a threat? Simply stating facts? By closing time, she still hadn't figured it out. The walk to the subway felt longer than usual. Ava kept her keys in her hand, her phone in her pocket with 911 already dialed except for the final digit. The February wind cut through her coat, and she welcomed the discomfort. Physical pain was manageable, quantifiable. She made it home without incident. 3 locks. Chair under the doorknob. Routine established. At 3 a.m., someone knocked on her door. Ava woke instantly, her heart slamming against her ribs. She'd been dozing on the couch, unable to make herself vulnerable in the bedroom. The knock came again. Not pounding, almost polite. "Ava." "It's Marcus." She moved the chair and opened the door to the chain lock's limit. Marcus stood in the hallway, looking uncomfortable and determined. "What are you doing here?" "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then unchained the door. Marcus had never been to her apartment. She'd never invited anyone to her apartment. It felt like a violation of the careful boundaries she'd constructed. He stepped inside, taking in the sparse furniture, the complete absence of personality. If he thought it was strange, he didn't say so. "Coffee?" Ava asked, because she didn't know what else to offer. "No, I'm not staying long." Marcus sat on the edge of her second-hand couch. "I talked to some people today about Logan." "I told you not to, but..." "I know what you told me. I did it anyway." He leaned forward, his hands clasped between his knees. "Logan's worse than I thought. 3 women have filed complaints against him in the past 2 years. Stalking, harassment, assault. Nothing stuck. His family's lawyers are good, and the women were convinced to drop the charges." "Convinced how?" "Money in 2 cases. The 3rd woman left the state." Ava sat down slowly. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to know what you're up against. This isn't some guy who's going to get bored. This is a predator who's decided you're prey." "So what do you want me to do? Quit? Move again?" "I want you to let people help you." "What people?" Marcus looked at her steadily. "Roman Castell offered to handle it." The words hung in the air like smoke. Ava felt her chest tighten. "Handle it how?" He didn't specify, but Roman doesn't make empty offers. "No." The word came out flat. Final. "I'm not letting some crime boss fight my battles. Roman's not..." Marcus stopped. "It's complicated." "It's not complicated. I don't owe him anything, and I won't. It's not about owing. Roman owns this place. Technically, you work for him, and he doesn't like it when people mess with his employees." Ava stood up, pacing the small space. "So what? I'm supposed to be grateful? Let him handle Logan, and then what? I'm in his debt?" "I know how this works, Marcus. Nobody helps for free." "You're right, nobody does." Marcus stood too. "But sometimes the cost of refusing help is higher than the cost of accepting it." After he left, Ava stood at her window and watched the empty street 4 stories below. Somewhere out there, Logan was awake too, thinking about her, planning his next move. And somewhere else, Roman Castell was doing the same. She was caught between predator and protector, and she wasn't naive enough to think there was much difference between the two. The next 3 days passed in mounting tension. Logan didn't come to the diner, but his presence was felt in other ways. He'd sent flowers to her apartment, wilting roses that the super had left outside her door. He'd called the diner asking for her by name, hanging up when someone else answered. He'd started appearing places she went. The bodega 3 blocks from her apartment, the laundromat she used on Thursday mornings. Never close enough to confront, always close enough to be seen. It was psychological warfare, and it was working. Ava stopped sleeping more than an hour at a time. She jumped at shadows. Her hands developed a tremor she couldn't control. At work, she dropped a full pot of coffee and spent 20 minutes cleaning up the shattered glass while Keisha covered her tables. "You need to talk to someone, Ja," Keisha said quietly as Ava dumped the broken pieces in the trash. "I'm fine." "You're falling apart." I said I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. She was barely holding on, and everyone could see it. On Friday night, exactly 1 week after the first incident, Logan came back. The dinner rush was in full swing. Every booth filled, people waiting by the door for tables to open up. Ava was carrying a tray of dishes when she saw him walk in, and her hands went numb. The tray tilted. Glasses slid. Marcus caught it from behind her. "I got it. Go to the back." "No." "Ava, no." She took the tray back, her jaw set. "I'm not hiding from him." Logan sat at the counter this time, right in the middle of the diner's main artery. Everyone would have to see him. Everyone would have to watch. He ordered coffee from Keisha, who brought it without a word. Then he turned on his stool and looked directly at Ava. She ignored him, took orders, delivered food, refilled drinks, moved through her routine with mechanical precision, but she felt his eyes on her every second. At 9 p.m., Roman Castell walked in. The diner's energy shifted immediately. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they lowered in volume. People became more aware of their surroundings. Even the kitchen went quieter. Roman took his usual booth. Logan's smile faltered. Ava brought Roman coffee without being asked. Her hands were steadier now, just knowing he was there. She hated that, hated depending on anyone for safety. "Thank you," Roman said. She nodded and turned to go. "Ava." Logan's voice carried across the diner. "Come here." She kept walking. "I'm talking to you." Ava stopped, turned, looked at him directly for the first time since he'd arrived. "I'm working." "So work. Bring me a menu." "Keisha is handling the counter. I want you to handle me." The phrasing was deliberate, crude, designed to embarrass her. Around them, the diner had gone quiet again, that awful, complicit silence. Ava walked to the counter and handed him a menu. "What can I get you? Your number?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I'm not interested." "You don't even know me." "I know enough." Logan leaned closer. "You think you're special? You think because you're pretty, you can treat people like shit?" "I think I can say no when I want to say no." "And I think you need to learn some manners." Ava felt the familiar spike of adrenaline. Fight or flight. Danny's fist coming at her face, the sound her ribs made when they cracked. The taste of blood. But she wasn't Sarah Mitchell anymore. And she wasn't running. "I've been very polite," she said quietly. "I've served you coffee. I brought you a menu. I've done my job. But I don't owe you my time, my attention, or my phone number. So order something or leave." Logan's face darkened. "You little—" "Is there a problem?" Roman had appeared beside them, silent as smoke. Ava hadn't even seen him get up. "No problem." Logan's bravado cracked slightly. "Just trying to have a conversation. The lady's working. Maybe let her work." "Maybe you should mind your business." Roman smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "This is my business. Literally. I own this place, which means if I tell you to leave, you leave. I'm a paying customer. You're a nuisance, and you're making my employee uncomfortable. I'm not doing anything wrong. You're breathing her air. That's wrong enough." The diner had gone completely silent now. Everyone watching, everyone waiting to see if Logan would push back. He stood up slowly. "You can't protect her all the time." "I don't need to protect her all the time, just when assholes like you are around." "You think you scare me?" Roman's expression didn't change. "I don't think about you at all. But you should think about me, long and hard, before you decide your next move." Logan looked at Ava, then at Roman, then back at Ava. "This isn't over." "Yeah, it is." Roman's voice was flat, final. "You're done here. You're done at every place I have any influence over. You're done anywhere my name carries weight, which in this city is damn near everywhere. You can't. I can. And I am. Roman pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. I just sent word to 30 different establishments. Your face, your name, your entire existence is now persona non grata. Try me. Logan's face cycled through emotions. Rage, fear, calculation. He settled on rage. Fuck you, and fuck her. He stormed out, shoving past waiting customers hard enough to make them stumble. The diner exhaled collectively. Conversations resumed. Silverware clinked. Life continued. But Ava stood frozen, her heart pounding. Roman looked at her. You okay? I didn't ask for that. I know. I don't need you to fight my battles. I know that too. Then why? Because I wanted to. He said it simply. You work hard. You're kind to people even when they don't deserve it. You make good coffee. That's enough reason for me. He went back to his booth. Ava stood at the counter, her hands shaking with an emotion she couldn't name. Not gratitude. Not exactly. Something more complicated. The rest of the night passed in a blur. When closing time came, Roman was still there, reading his newspaper over his third cup of coffee. Marcus cleaned the kitchen while Ava wiped down tables. Keisha had left an hour ago. The diner was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerators and the occasional car passing outside. You should let me walk you home, Roman said without looking up from his paper. I'm fine. Logan's angry, embarrassed. That makes him unpredictable. I said I'm fine. Roman folded his newspaper. You know what I think? I think you're so used to handling everything alone that you've forgotten how to let people care about you. The observation landed like a punch. Ava stopped wiping the table. You don't know anything about me. I know you've been here 8 months and never called in sick until this week. I know you pick up extra shifts when other people flake. I know you take the subway home at 2:30 in the morning and don't complain about it. He stood up. I know someone hurt you badly enough that you flinch when men raise their voices. And I know you're terrified that asking for help makes you weak. Stop. It doesn't. Make you weak, I mean. It makes you human. Ava felt tears burning behind her eyes. She blinked them back furiously. I don't need your protection. Maybe not. But you have it anyway. Why? The question came out raw. Why do you care? Roman was quiet for a moment. 8 years ago, someone I loved was in trouble. She didn't tell me because she thought she could handle it alone. By the time I found out, it was too late. She's dead now because I wasn't paying attention, and she was too proud to ask for help. The confession hung between them. I'm sorry, Ava said quietly. Me too. Roman put money on the table, more than enough to cover his bill. I'm not trying to control you. I'm not trying to own you. I'm just trying to make sure you don't end up like her. He walked to the door, then paused. I'll be outside when you're ready to leave. You can tell me to go away, and I will. But I'll be there. After he left, Ava stood in the empty diner and cried. Not from fear, not from stress, from the sheer exhaustion of carrying everything alone for so long. Marcus came out of the kitchen, took one look at her, and pulled her into a hug. She let herself lean into it for exactly 30 seconds. Then she straightened, wiped her eyes, and finished closing the diner. Roman was waiting outside when she locked up. He kept his distance, hands in his pockets, expression neutral. You can go, Ava said. I'll be fine. I'll walk you to the subway. You don't have to. I know. They walked in silence. The February cold bit through Ava's coat, but she barely felt it. Her mind was racing, trying to process everything that had happened. At the subway entrance, she stopped. Thank you. For tonight. You're welcome. But this doesn't change anything. I still don't want your protection. Noted. And I don't owe you anything. Never said you did. Ava studied his face in the streetlight. He looked tired. Older than his 40-some years. She wondered what his story was. What had brought him to own a diner in Brooklyn? And what had made him care about a waitress he barely knew? Your friend, she said. The one who died. What was her name? Anna. His voice was soft. Her name was Anna. I'm not her. I know. And I'm not your second chance at saving someone. Roman met her eyes. You're right. You're not. But maybe I'm learning that protecting people doesn't always mean saving them. Sometimes it just means being there when they need someone. Ava didn't know what to say to that, so she just nodded and went down into the subway. On the train home, she thought about Danny, about the years she'd spent making herself smaller, quieter, less. About the moment she'd finally decided that survival was worth more than peace. She'd left him on a Tuesday, walked out with one bag, and never looked back. Maybe it was time to stop running. Maybe it was time to stand still and see what happened. But first, she had to survive Logan Pierce. The apartment felt different when she got home that night. Still small, still sparse, but somehow less like a hiding place and more like just a place. Ava triple-locked the door out of habit, but she didn't drag the chair over. Small progress. Meaningless, probably, but it felt like something. She slept 4 hours straight for the first time in a week. Saturday brought rain that turned the city gray and formless. Ava took the subway to work with her hood up, watching her reflection fragment in the train windows. She looked tired, washed out, like someone who'd been running on fumes for so long they'd forgotten what actual fuel felt like. The diner was busy despite the weather. Weekends always were. Families with restless kids, couples nursing hangovers over eggs and hash browns. The regulars who came in rain or shine because they had nowhere else to be. Roman wasn't there. Ava told herself she didn't notice, told herself it didn't matter. "You look better," Keisha said during a rare lull. "I slept." Roman really banned Logan from everywhere? That's what he said. Keisha wiped down the counter with slow, methodical strokes. "You know Roman's not just some businessman, right?" "I figured. People say he used to work for the Vitale family, high up, real high up. Then something happened, nobody knows what, and he walked away. Bought this place with cash. Now he just sits here and drinks coffee and reads his paper like he's retired." Maybe he is retired. People like Roman don't retire, they just change what game they're playing. Keisha tossed the rag in the sink. "Point is, when he says Logan's banned, he means it. That's not an empty threat." Ava refilled napkin dispensers and tried not to think about what it meant to have someone like Roman Castell on her side. Tried not to wonder what the cost would be. The lunch rush came and went. Ava worked her section, poured coffee, smiled at customers. Routine, normal, almost boring. She was clearing a booth when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't check it. Then some instinct made her look. The photo loaded slowly. When it did, Ava's blood went cold. It was her building, her specific building, taken from street level, looking up at the 4th floor. At her window. The caption, "Nice curtains." Her hand started shaking. She deleted the message, blocked the number. But the damage was done. Logan knew where she lived, had known, probably, for days. Was just waiting for the right moment to remind her. "You okay?" Marcus had appeared beside her. "Fine." "That's your fine face, which means something's wrong." Ava showed him the phone. Marcus's expression darkened. "That's it. I'm calling—" "No." She grabbed his arm. "No police, no Roman. I'll handle it." "How?" "I don't know yet." But she did know. She'd known since Tuesday, really. She just hadn't wanted to admit it. She couldn't run forever, couldn't rely on other people to protect her, couldn't keep living half a life, always looking over her shoulder, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Something had to change, and that something was her. After her shift, Ava didn't go home. She took the subway to a part of Brooklyn she'd never been to before, where the buildings were older and the streetlights flickered and everyone minded their own business. The gym was in a basement, accessed through an unmarked door between a bodega and a check-cashing place. She'd found it online weeks ago, bookmarked the address, told herself she'd never actually go. But here she was. Inside, the space smelled like sweat and old leather. Punching bags hung from the ceiling. A boxing ring dominated the center. Men and women in various stages of workout moved through the space with focused intensity. "Help you?" A woman in her 50s with graying hair and arms like cable wire looked Ava up and down. "I want to learn to fight." "Why? Does it matter?" The woman studied her. "Yeah, it does. You want to learn sport fighting or survival fighting?" "What's the difference?" "Sport fighting has rules, survival fighting has one rule: don't die." She held out a calloused hand. "I'm Rita." "Ava." You done this before, Ava? No. You know it's not like the movies, right? Takes years to get good, months just to get competent. I don't have years. Rita's expression shifted. Someone after you? Maybe. Police know? Police don't care. Rita nodded slowly, like this confirmed something she already knew. Okay, here's the deal. I can teach you some basics, enough to maybe create an opening, get away. But fighting's not about technique when you're scared. It's about knowing you're willing to hurt someone if you have to. You willing? Ava thought about Danny, about the night he'd hit her so hard she'd seen stars, about the moment she'd realized that if she stayed, eventually he'd kill her. Yes. Then we start now. $60 for the session. Ava paid cash. Rita led her to the back where a smaller space held equipment and mirrors. First thing you gotta understand, fair fights are bullshit. You're smaller than most men, weaker in terms of raw muscle, so you don't fight fair, you fight dirty. For the next hour, Rita taught her the basics. Not how to throw a perfect punch, but where to aim to cause maximum damage. Eyes, throat, groin, knees, how to use her palm instead of her fist, how to stomp on an instep, how to bite if she had to. Fighting's about options, Rita said as Ava practiced on a dummy. Creating them, taking them. Most people freeze when they're attacked because they don't see options. You gotta train yourself to always be looking for the way out. By the end, Ava was sweating and shaking. Her hands hurt. Her shoulders burned. That's enough for today, Rita said. You did good. Better than most first-timers. When can I come back? When can you afford it? Tomorrow. Rita smiled. All right, tomorrow. Same time. Ava took the subway home in the dark, her body aching, her mind clearer than it had been in days. She still didn't know what she was going to do about Logan, but at least now she felt like she had some control over the outcome. The next 2 weeks fell into a pattern. Work, train, sleep, repeat. Ava pulled double shifts when she could, banking money. She spent her evenings at Rita's gym, learning to move, to react, to hurt. Logan stayed away from the diner, but his presence was felt in other ways. More photos of her building, her route to work, the bodega where she bought groceries. He was watching, waiting, and Ava was preparing. Roman came to the diner most days, always at the same time, always ordering the same things. They didn't talk beyond the necessary pleasantries. But sometimes Ava would catch him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Concern, maybe. Or recognition. Like he saw something in her that reminded him of someone else. You're walking different, Keisha observed one Thursday afternoon. What? Your posture. You stand straighter now, and you don't flinch when people come up behind you. Ava hadn't noticed, but Keisha was right. The training was changing her, not just physically, but mentally. She felt less like prey. That night, Rita introduced her to sparring. You're gonna get hit, Rita warned, and it's gonna suck. But you need to know what it feels like so you don't panic when it happens for real. The woman she sparred with was younger, faster, better trained. She pulled her punches, but they still connected. Ava's lips split. Her ribs screamed, but she didn't quit. Good, Rita said afterward as Ava pressed ice to her mouth. You didn't fold, that's important. I feel like I got hit by a truck. That's how you know you're learning something. Rita sat down beside her. Can I ask you something? Sure. This person who's after you, is it an ex? No. Just someone who doesn't like being told no. Those are sometimes worse. Exes, you know their patterns. Strangers with grudges are unpredictable. Rita handed her more ice. You got people watching your back? Ava thought of Marcus, of Roman. Some. Good, because the best fight is the one you don't have alone. On her way home, Ava's phone rang. Not a text. An actual call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her swipe to accept. Hello? Breathing on the other end. Then Logan's voice, smooth and cold. You think you're safe because Roman scared me? You think I'm just going to walk away? Ava's heart rate spiked, but her voice stayed level. What do you want? I want you to understand something. Roman's protection has limits. He can ban me from his places, but he can't watch you 24/7. Eventually, you're going to be alone. And when that happens, I'm going to be there. Is that a threat? It's a promise. His voice dropped lower. You embarrassed me, Ava. Made me look weak in front of people. That's not something I forgive. I didn't do anything to you except say no. That was enough. The line went dead. Ava stood on the sidewalk, rain starting to fall, and made a decision. She was done reacting, done waiting for Logan to make his move. If he wanted a confrontation, she'd give him one. On her terms. She called Marcus. Hey, what's up? I need a favor. Name it. Can you get me Logan's address? Silence on the other end, then, Are you sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Marcus sighed. I'll call you back. 20 minutes later, her phone buzzed with a text. An address in Queens, a warning. Don't do anything stupid. Ava stared at the message. What she was planning was definitely stupid, possibly dangerous. Probably wouldn't work. But it was better than waiting. She went home, took a shower, changed into dark clothes. Then she took the subway to Queens. The building was nicer than she'd expected. A modern high-rise with a doorman and everything. Logan clearly had money, or his family did. Ava didn't go inside. She found a coffee shop across the street and sat by the window, watching the entrance. She wasn't sure what she was looking for. Wasn't even sure what she'd do if Logan appeared. But she needed to see where he lived. Needed to understand his world the way he'd made a point of understanding hers. She sat there for 3 hours. Ordered coffee she didn't drink. Watched people come and go from the building. Commuters. Families. A dog walker with 6 leashes. No Logan. At 11 p.m., she gave up and took the subway home, feeling foolish and wired and strangely disappointed. But the next night, she went back. And the night after that. On the 4th night, Logan walked out of the building at 9:15 p.m. Ava's breath caught. He was on his phone, laughing at something, completely unaware of her watching from across the street. He looked normal, almost harmless. Just a guy in expensive jeans and a leather jacket. He got into a black sedan. Ava memorized the license plate. The sedan pulled away from the curb, and without thinking, Ava followed on foot. She lost sight of it within 2 blocks, but that didn't matter. She'd seen what she needed to see. Logan wasn't invincible. He was just a man, flesh and bone and vulnerabilities like anyone else. The realization was grounding. For weeks, he'd loomed large in her mind, this unstoppable force she could only run from. But he wasn't unstoppable. He was human, and humans could be hurt. Ava went to work the next day with a plan forming in her mind. Not fully developed yet. More like the skeleton of an idea. But it was something. Roman came in at his usual time. Ava brought him coffee, and this time, when he thanked her, she sat down across from him. He looked up from his newspaper, surprised but not displeased. To what do I owe the honor? I need to ask you something. All right? When you said you'd protect me from Logan, what did that mean exactly? Roman folded his newspaper carefully. It meant I'd make sure he couldn't hurt you, by whatever means necessary. Which means what? Scaring him? Hurting him? Making him disappear? Yes. The simple honesty of it was jarring. You'd really do that? For a waitress you barely know? I've done worse for less. Roman's expression was unreadable. But I'm hoping it won't come to that. Most bullies back down when they realize the cost is too high. And if Logan doesn't, then I'll make sure the cost becomes real. Ava leaned back. I don't want you to kill him. I didn't offer to. But you would if I asked. If you asked, I'd consider it, but I'd probably say no. Killing creates complications. Better to make problems go away through other means. Like what? Roman smiled slightly. You really want to know? Maybe not. They sat in silence for a moment. The diner buzzed with lunch conversation around them. Normal life continuing while they discussed violence like it was a menu option. Can I tell you something? Ava said finally. Please. I spent 3 years being invisible, hiding, making myself small, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being scared, tired of running, tired of letting men like Logan think they can control my life. So what are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I'm done waiting for him to make the first move. Roman studied her face. Be careful. Anger makes people reckless. I'm not angry, I'm just done. That's usually when people are most dangerous, to others and themselves. He picked up his coffee. Whatever you're planning, Make sure you can live with the consequences. That evening, Ava went back to Rita's gym. But instead of their usual training, she asked Rita to teach her something specific. I need to know how to disarm someone. Rita raised an eyebrow. Someone have a weapon on you? Not yet, but I want to be ready if they do. They spent 2 hours going through scenarios. Knife defense, how to grab a wrist, how to use momentum against someone. It was complicated, technical, and Rita stressed repeatedly that the best defense was running. You can't win every fight, Rita said. Sometimes survival means knowing when to bail. What if I can't run? Then you fight dirty and you fight mean, and you accept that you might get hurt in the process. Rita demonstrated a move that involved breaking fingers. The goal isn't to win, it's to create enough chaos that you can escape. What if I don't want to escape? What if I want to end it? Rita went still. End it how? I don't know, I'm tired of being hunted. So become the hunter. Rita's voice was flat. But understand that hunting changes you, even when it's justified, even when it's necessary. You cross that line, you don't come back the same. Ava thought about that on the subway home, about lines and crossing them, about the person she used to be versus the person she was becoming. Sarah Mitchell had been soft, trusting, the kind of woman who believed love could fix broken men. Ava Carter knew better. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Another photo, this one of her leaving the gym, sweaty and tired. The caption, "Getting stronger won't help." Ava stared at the message. Then she did something she hadn't done before. She replied, "When are you going to stop hiding behind a phone?" The response came immediately. "Whenever I want." That's the point. I control this, not you. You don't control anything. You're just a coward who can't handle rejection. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. You're going to regret this. I already regret wasting time being scared of you. She blocked the number before he could respond. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear, from something else, something that felt like power. At work the next day, Marcus pulled her aside. "What did you do? What are you talking about?" "Logan's been asking around about you again, more insistent this time, angry." "Good." "Good?" "Ava, that's the opposite of good." "I'm tired of playing defense, Marcus. Maybe it's time to make him uncomfortable for a change." "That's not how this works. You poke a hornet's nest, you get stung. Then I'll get stung, but at least I'll know it's coming." Marcus looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Maybe she had. Maybe 3 years of running had finally broken something fundamental in her psyche. Or maybe she'd finally remembered who she was before Danny had beaten it out of her. That night, Roman stayed later than usual, past closing, past the point where Marcus left and Ava was alone, wiping down tables in the empty diner. "You're going to confront him, aren't you?" Roman said from his booth. Ava didn't ask how he knew. Maybe. That's a mistake. "You don't know that. I know men like Logan. They need to win. You confront him directly, he'll escalate. He's already escalating. Not like he will if you challenge him face to face." Roman stood, walked over to where she was working. "I've seen this play out before. Too many times. Someone thinks they can handle it themselves. Thinks confrontation brings closure. Usually it just brings violence. So what do you suggest? I keep hiding? Keep letting him control my life?" "I suggest you let me handle it." "By doing what? Scaring him again? That didn't work. He's still texting me, still following me, still—" Her voice cracked. "Still making me feel like I'm back with Danny, waiting for the next hit." The name slipped out before she could stop it. Roman's expression shifted. "Danny?" Ava set down her rag. She was so tired, tired of secrets, tired of carrying everything alone. "My ex-husband. The reason I came to New York, the reason I changed my name." "He hurt you." It wasn't a question. Ava nodded anyway. "And you left him 3 years ago. Does he know where you are?" "No, I was careful. New name, new city, new life. I made sure he couldn't find me." Roman was quiet for a long moment. "That takes courage. Walking away from everything you know." It didn't feel like courage. It felt like survival. "Same thing sometimes." Ava met his eyes. "You said someone you loved died because she didn't ask for help. What happened?" Roman's jaw tightened. Her name was Anna. She was my younger sister. She had an ex-boyfriend who wouldn't let go, stalked her, harassed her. She told me she could handle it, that she didn't want to drag me into her problems. He paused. I found her body 3 weeks later. The pain in his voice was raw, real. Ava felt her throat tighten. I'm sorry. Me too. Roman looked away. I swore after that I'd never let anyone I cared about handle that kind of danger alone. Even if they insisted, even if they hated me for interfering. I'm not your sister. I know, but you're in my diner working for me, being threatened by someone who should know better. That makes you my responsibility. I'm not anyone's responsibility. Everyone's someone's responsibility. That's how civilization works. Roman pulled on his coat. I'm going to say this once, and then I'll respect whatever decision you make. Let me handle Logan, not because you're weak, not because you can't do it yourself, but because I have resources and connections that you don't, and because some problems are solved more permanently when the right person applies pressure. Permanently how? Logan works for the Calabrese family, but he's not essential. He's muscle, replaceable. If I make it clear that his continued harassment of you is bad for business, their business, they'll handle him themselves. No violence, no confrontation, just economic pressure that makes the problem go away. It was logical, strategic, probably effective, and it meant giving up control again. I need to think about it, Ava said. Fair enough. Roman headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I think you're one of the strongest people I've met. But strength isn't about fighting every battle alone. Sometimes it's about knowing which battles to delegate. After he left, Ava locked up the diner and stood in the empty space, trying to figure out who she was and what she wanted. She'd spent 3 years running from confrontation. Maybe Roman was right. Maybe the smart play was to let him handle it. But something in her, something that sounded like Rita's voice, kept insisting that she needed to face this herself. Not for revenge, not even for justice, for closure. The decision came to her at 4 a.m. on a Wednesday, when she couldn't sleep and the walls of her apartment felt like they were closing in. She'd been weighing Roman's offer for 3 days, turning it over in her mind like a stone she couldn't quite identify. Let him handle it. Let someone else fight the battle. It made sense. But sense and need weren't the same thing. Ava got out of bed and stood at her window, looking down at the empty street. Somewhere out there, Logan was probably asleep. Comfortable. Confident that his campaign of intimidation was working. And maybe it had been. For a while. But something had shifted in her over the past few weeks. The training with Rita, the confrontation with Roman, the slow realization that she'd spent 3 years letting fear make her decisions. She was done with that. At the diner that morning, she found Marcus in the kitchen before opening. I need another favor. Marcus looked up from the grill he was cleaning. Why do I feel like I'm going to regret this? Because you probably will. Ava leaned against the counter. I need you to get a message to Logan. Absolutely not. Marcus, no. Whatever you're planning, the answer is no. He threw down his rag. You think I don't see what's happening? You've been training. You've been watching his building. You've got that look Sarah used to get before she did something stupid. Ava froze. What did you just call me? Marcus's expression shifted. Shit, I'm sorry, I didn't mean... How long have you known? He sighed, running a hand over his face. About 6 months. You used your real social security number on your W-2. I processed payroll, remember? Saw the name Sarah Mitchell come up in the system, even though your application said Ava Carter. Ava felt the floor tilt beneath her. Why didn't you say anything? Because everyone's running from something, and you're a good worker who keeps her head down. Figured you had your reasons. Marcus met her eyes. I'm guessing Danny Mitchell is the reason? She nodded, unable to speak. He's still looking for you? I don't know. I've been careful. Not careful enough if you're about to do something that puts you on Logan's radar even more than you already are. Marcus moved closer. Listen to me. I've known guys like Logan my whole life. They're bullies, yeah, but they're dangerous bullies, connected bullies. You go after him directly, you better be prepared for what comes next. I am prepared. No, you're not. You think a few weeks of boxing lessons makes you ready? It doesn't. Then what do you suggest? I keep letting him terrorize me? I take Roman's offer and become someone's debt? Roman's offer doesn't come with strings. I've known him 8 years. He's not like that. Everyone's like that. Ava's voice was hard. Everyone wants something, and I'm done owing people. Marcus studied her for a long moment. You're going to do this no matter what I say, aren't you? Yes. Then at least be smart about it. Don't meet him alone. Don't meet him anywhere isolated. And for the love of everything, don't underestimate him. Will you get him the message or not? Marcus closed his eyes. What do you want me to say? Tell him I'm done running. Tell him if he wants to talk, he can meet me at the diner. Friday night, 11 p.m., public place, witnesses. And then what? Then I tell him to leave me alone, face to face. No more texts, no more games, just a conversation. You think that'll work? No, but I have to try. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue more, but something in her expression must have stopped him. I'll get word to him, but I'm staying Friday night, and I'm calling Roman. Don't. Non-negotiable. You want to do this stupid thing? Fine. But you're not doing it without backup. He picked up his rag again, his movements sharp. I swear to God, Sarah, Ava, whoever you are, if this gets you killed, I'm going to be pissed. Despite everything, Ava almost smiled. Noted. The next 2 days crawled by. Ava worked her shifts, trained at Rita's gym, tried to keep her mind busy. But the knowledge of what was coming hung over everything like a thunderstorm building on the horizon. Rita noticed the distraction during Thursday's session. You're telegraphing your punches, your head's somewhere else. Sorry. Don't apologize. Fix it. Rita held the pad steady. Whatever's eating you, deal with it or put it away. You can't fight distracted. I'm meeting him tomorrow, the guy who's been stalking me. Rita lowered the pads. Meeting him where? The diner, public place, people around. That's good. Smart. Rita paused. You want me to come? You do that? I've seen a lot of women in your position. Most of them wait too long to act. You're being proactive. I respect that. She pulled off the pads. But confrontation's tricky. He's going to try to get under your skin, make you react. You got to stay calm. I don't feel calm. Nobody does. That's why you practice. Rita grabbed 2 bottles of water, handed one to Ava. Let's run through scenarios. What are you going to say to him? They spent the next hour rehearsing. Rita played Logan, throwing insults and provocations while Ava practiced staying centered. It felt ridiculous at first, like role-playing for a school presentation. But gradually, Ava found her rhythm, found the words that felt true. I'm not afraid of you. I don't want anything from you. Leave me alone. Simple, direct, clear. Good, Rita said. Keep it short. Don't explain yourself. Don't justify. Just state the boundary and hold it. And if he doesn't respect it, then you leave, and you let the people who care about you handle the next steps. That night, Ava barely slept. She kept playing out scenarios in her head, what Logan might say, how she'd respond, what could go wrong. Everything could go wrong, but everything had already been wrong for weeks. At least this way, she was doing something about it. Friday morning arrived gray and cold. March in New York, still holding on to winter's edge. Ava went through her opening routine at the diner with mechanical precision. Coffee, tables, prep work, the familiar rhythm that had sustained her for 8 months. Keisha noticed her tension immediately. You okay? Yeah. That's your lying voice. Ava managed a weak smile. Logan's coming tonight. I asked him to. Keisha's eyes went wide. You what? I'm meeting with him to tell him to leave me alone. Are you insane? You don't negotiate with people like that. I'm not negotiating. I'm setting a boundary. Same difference to guys like him. Keisha grabbed her arm. Don't do this. I have to. No, you don't. You could let Roman handle it. You could go to the police. You could leave the city. You have options. All of those options mean running or hiding or depending on someone else. Ava pulled her arm free gently. I'm done with that. The day shift was busy enough to keep her distracted. Lunch rush, then the afternoon lull, then early dinner. Regular customers who knew their orders by heart. Tourists who needed recommendations. The endless cycle of service that had become her life. Roman came in at 3 p.m., earlier than usual. He sat at his regular booth and waited until Ava brought coffee before speaking. Marcus called me. Of course he did. He said you're meeting Logan tonight. That's right. Roman added cream to his coffee with his usual precise movements. I wish you wouldn't. I know. But you're going to anyway. Yes. He was quiet for a moment. Can I ask why? Ava sat down across from him. The diner was nearly empty, the dinner rush still an hour away. When I left Danny, I promised myself I'd never be that person again. Never be someone who let fear control her. Never be someone who needed saving. She met his eyes. These past few weeks, I've been slipping back into old patterns, looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows, waiting for someone else to fix my problems. Asking for help isn't the same as needing to be saved. Maybe not, but it feels the same to me. Roman studied her face. You know this might not work. Logan might not respond the way you hope. I know. And you're prepared for that? As much as I can be. He nodded slowly. Then I'll respect your decision, but I'm staying tonight, and if things go wrong, I'm stepping in, non-negotiable. Roman, non-negotiable, he repeated. His voice was firm, but not unkind. You get to choose how you confront this, but you don't get to stop me from being here. That's my choice. There was something in his expression that reminded Ava of Marcus. That same stubborn concern, that same refusal to let her face this completely alone. Okay, she said quietly. Thank you. The evening shift started at 5. Keisha left at 7, giving Ava a long look that said everything words couldn't. Marcus stayed in the kitchen, his presence a constant reassurance. Roman remained in his booth, reading his newspaper like it was any other night. But it wasn't any other night. The dinner crowd thinned out around 9. By 10, only a handful of customers remained. 2 cops at the counter, different ones than before, but still regulars. An elderly man who came in every Friday for pie. A young couple in the corner booth, sharing fries and quiet conversation. At 10:30, Ava started cleaning tables that didn't need cleaning. Her hands were steady, but her heart was racing. She counted her breaths, counted the tiles on the floor, counted the minutes until 11. At 10:55, the door opened. Logan Pierce walked in like he owned the place. He was dressed casually, jeans, a black sweater, expensive sneakers. He looked around the diner with an expression that was half smirk, half challenge. His eyes found Ava. He smiled. You wanted to talk, so let's talk. Marcus appeared in the kitchen window. The 2 cops at the counter shifted on their stools. Roman didn't look up from his newspaper. Ava set down the rag she'd been holding. Not here, the back booth. Logan followed her to the most isolated booth in the diner, still visible from the front, but offering some semblance of privacy. He slid in across from her, spreading his arms across the back of the seat. So, here we are. Ava kept her hands on the table where she could see them. Rita's training echoing in her head. Stay calm, stay centered, don't let him provoke you. I want you to leave me alone. Logan laughed. That's it? That's your big speech? That's all I have to say. Stop texting me, stop following me, stop coming to my work, just leave me alone. And if I don't, then I'll file a restraining order. With what proof? Some texts? Photos from public places? His smile widened. You got nothing, sweetheart. Nothing that'll stick. Then I'll go to your family. Tell them you're harassing me. My family doesn't care what I do in my free time. As long as I do my job, I can do whatever I want. Ava felt her jaw tighten. Why are you doing this? What do you want from me? What do I want? Logan leaned forward. I want you to understand that you don't get to disrespect me. You don't get to act like I'm nothing. You don't get to say no to me and walk away like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm a waitress. You're a customer. I served you coffee. That's the extent of our relationship. That's where you're wrong. His voice dropped lower. The moment you looked at me like I was dirt, you made it personal. And I don't let personal shit slide. So what, you're going to stalk me forever? Make my life miserable because I wasn't nice enough? Maybe. Or maybe I'm just going to keep reminding you that nobody tells me no. Nobody makes me look weak. And nobody gets away with it. The mask had slipped completely now. Ava could see the rage underneath, the entitlement, the same look Danny used to get right before his fist came flying. You're pathetic, she said quietly. Logan's expression darkened. What did you just say? You're pathetic. You're so desperate for control that you're terrorizing a woman who wants nothing to do with you. You're so fragile that a simple rejection feels like an attack. Ava leaned forward, matching his posture. I've dealt with men like you my whole life. You're not special. You're not scary. You're just sad. He moved fast. 1 second he was sitting across from her. The next his hand was around her wrist, squeezing hard enough to hurt. You think you know me? You don't know shit. Let go of my wrist. Or what? Around them the diner had gone silent. The young couple in the corner booth stared. The elderly man with his pie had frozen mid-bite. The cops at the counter had turned to watch, but nobody moved. Let go, Ava repeated. Make me. She didn't think, just reacted. Muscle memory from Rita's training taking over. She twisted her wrist sharply, breaking his grip, and drove her palm up into his nose. Not hard enough to break it, but hard enough to shock him, hard enough to make his eyes water. Logan jerked back, his hand flying to his face. You bitch! He came at her across the table. Ava scrambled out of the booth, but he was faster. His hand caught her shoulder, spinning her around, and then Roman was there. He didn't shout, didn't make a scene, just stepped between them with the quiet efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before. That's enough. Logan's face was twisted with rage. Get out of my way. No, this is between me and her. Not anymore. Roman's voice was deadly calm. You put your hands on her. In my place. That breaks the rule. Fuck your rule. That's unfortunate. Roman didn't move, didn't raise his voice. Because the rule is the only thing keeping you safe right now. Something in his tone made Logan pause. Made everyone pause. The air in the diner felt thick, charged with the potential for violence. You threatening me? Logan's voice wavered slightly. I'm stating facts. You came into my establishment and assaulted one of my employees, in front of witnesses. Roman gestured to the cops at the counter. Officers, you saw that, correct? The younger cop stood up slowly. Yeah, we saw it. Logan's eyes widened. I barely touched her. You grabbed her. She defended herself. You came at her again. The cop moved closer, his hand resting on his belt. That's assault. This is bullshit. She hit me first. After you grabbed her wrist, which is also assault. The cop looked at Ava. You want to press charges, ma'am? Ava's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. This was the moment, the choice she'd been moving toward for weeks. Press charges and let the system handle it. Hope it worked this time. Hope Logan's lawyers couldn't make it disappear like they had before. Or end it differently. She looked at Logan, at his bloody nose and shocked expression, at the rage still simmering beneath the surface. Then she looked at Roman, at his steady presence, at the protection he was offering. Yes, she said, I want to press charges. Logan's face went through several expressions: shock, disbelief, fury. You're going to regret this. Is that another threat? The cop asked. Because you're already in enough trouble. The next hour was a blur. The cops took statements. Logan was cuffed and led out of the diner, still protesting. More police arrived. Ava answered questions until her voice went hoarse. Through it all, Roman stayed close, not hovering, just present, a steady anchor while everything else spun out of control. Finally, the cops left. The remaining customers had scattered. It was just Ava, Marcus, and Roman in the empty diner. You okay? Marcus asked. Ava looked at her hands. They were shaking now, the adrenaline wearing off. I don't know. You did good. Stood your ground. I hit him. In self-defense, after he grabbed you. That's textbook. But Ava couldn't stop replaying the moment. The feel of her palm connecting with his nose, the satisfaction she'd felt, the part of her that had wanted to hit him harder. I need some air. She walked outside before anyone could stop her. The March cold hit her face like a slap. She leaned against the brick wall and tried to breathe. The door opened behind her. Roman. You should go home, he said quietly. Get some rest. I can't. My shift's not over. Your shift is definitely over. Marcus is closing. I'm driving you home. I can take the subway. You can, but you don't have to. He pulled out car keys. My car's around the corner. Ava wanted to argue, wanted to maintain her independence, but she was so tired, and her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Okay. The car was a dark sedan, expensive but not flashy. Ava gave him her address and sank into the leather seat, staring out the window as Brooklyn slid past. You know he's not going to just accept this, right? She said after a while. I know. The charges might not stick. His family's lawyers will do what they can. But you have witnesses, cops who saw it happen, and you have me willing to testify. Roman glanced at her. This isn't over, but you took the first real step toward ending it. It doesn't feel like ending it. It feels like starting a war. Sometimes they're the same thing. He pulled up in front of her building. Ava reached for the door handle, then paused. Why did you help me? Really? Roman was quiet for a long moment. Because 8 years ago, I had a chance to help my sister, and I didn't take it seriously enough. I thought she was overreacting, thought her ex would get bored and move on. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. I was wrong, and she died because of it. That wasn't your fault, wasn't it? I had the resources to protect her, the connections to make her stalker disappear, but I was trying to respect her independence, trying not to be overprotective. He finally looked at her. So when I see someone in a similar situation, I don't make the same mistake. I act, whether they want me to or not. I'm still not your sister. No, but you're someone who deserves to feel safe, and I have the ability to help make that happen. So I do. Ava sat with that for a moment. Thank you. You're welcome. She got out of the car, then leaned back in. Roman? The rule at the diner? No violence, but I broke it tonight. I hit Logan. In self-defense, that's different. Is it? Violence is violence. Context matters. Always. Roman's expression was serious. The rule exists to keep the diner neutral, safe. But safety doesn't mean letting yourself be victimized. It means having the right to defend yourself when someone crosses the line. Ava nodded slowly. Good night, Roman. Good night, Ava. She climbed the 4 flights to her apartment, triple-locked the door, and finally let herself fall apart. Not from fear, not from regret, just from the sheer weight of everything that had happened. She'd pressed charges. She'd fought back. She'd stopped running. And tomorrow she'd wake up and face whatever came next. But tonight, for the first time in 3 years, she'd stood her ground. That had to count for something. Her phone buzzed. Marcus had texted, "Proud of you, get some sleep." Then another text, this one from an unknown number. "This isn't over." Ava stared at the message. Logan, probably, using yet another burner phone. She started to delete it, then stopped. Instead, she replied, "I know, but neither am I." She blocked the number and set her phone on the nightstand. Tomorrow she'd deal with lawyers and court dates and whatever retaliation Logan had planned. Tonight, she'd sleep. And she did. Deep and dreamless, for the first time in weeks. The peace lasted exactly 3 days. Long enough for Ava to start believing that maybe, possibly, things were going to be okay. Long enough to let her guard down. She should have known better. The charges against Logan were filed. Ava got a temporary restraining order. The cops assured her they had a solid case. Everything was moving forward through the proper channels. And then on Monday night, someone smashed her apartment window. She was at work when it happened. Came home to find glass all over her floor, a brick sitting in the middle of her living room, and a note wrapped around it. Court won't protect you. Ava stood in the doorway, staring at the destruction, and felt something inside her go cold. Not fear. Something harder. Something that had been building for weeks and finally crystallized into certainty. She couldn't fight this battle through proper channels. Logan had too many resources, too many connections, too much practice making problems disappear. If she wanted this to end, she needed to end it herself. But not the way she'd been trying. Not through confrontation or charges or restraining orders. She needed to make Logan more afraid of her than she was of him. And she knew exactly who could teach her how. Ava called Roman from her destroyed apartment, standing in a circle of broken glass that caught the streetlight and threw it back in sharp fragments. "I need your help." He arrived 20 minutes later with 2 men she didn't recognize. They boarded up the window without being asked, swept the glass, checked the locks. Professional, efficient. The kind of help that came from a single phone call when you knew the right people. Roman stood in the center of her apartment, taking in the sparse furniture, the complete absence of anything personal. His expression didn't change, but she saw the moment he understood what this space really was. Not a home. A hiding place. "You can't stay here tonight. I know. I have a place, guest room, secure building. You'd be safe." Ava looked at the brick still sitting on her floor, at the note that might as well have been written in her blood for all the threat it carried. I don't want to be safe. I want this to end. It will. The courts won't do anything. She picked up the note, handed it to him. You know it, and I know it. Logan's going to make bail. His lawyers will drag this out for months. And in the meantime, he'll keep coming, escalating, until someone gets seriously hurt. Roman read the note, his jaw tightening. So what do you want to do? I want to make him stop, permanently. The word hung between them. Roman's eyes searched her face, looking for something. Certainty, maybe, or understanding of what she was really asking. Do you know what you're saying? I'm saying I'm done playing by rules that don't protect me. Done waiting for systems that weren't built for people like me. Ava's voice was steady. I'm saying I need to know how to make him afraid enough that he leaves me alone forever. That's not self-defense anymore. That's something else. I know. Roman was quiet for a long time. There are lines, Ava. Once you cross them, you don't come back the same. I crossed that line 3 years ago when I left my husband. I've been pretending I could go back to being normal, but there's no normal after you've lived like I have. There's just survival. And right now, survival means ending this. He studied her face in the dim light of her apartment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. It's me. I need you to come to Brooklyn. Tonight. A pause. Because I have someone who needs the kind of help you specialize in. 20 minutes later, a woman arrived. She was maybe 50, dressed in expensive business casual, carrying herself with the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly who she was and what she was capable of. This is Elena, Roman said. She's a lawyer, specializes in cases where traditional legal channels don't work. Elena shook Ava's hand with a grip that was firm without being aggressive. Roman told me about your situation. I've dealt with the Calabrese family before. They're predictable. Lots of bluster, lots of intimidation, but they operate on fear. Take away the fear, and they collapse. How do you take away fear? You replace it with something stronger. In Logan's case, you make him more afraid of continuing than stopping. Elena sat down on Ava's couch like she owned it. I've been collecting information on him for years. 3 women before you filed complaints. All of them withdrew after his family applied pressure. But the complaints still exist. The evidence still exists. And I know things about Logan's activities that the family would very much not want to become public. Like what? Like the fact that he's been skimming money from collections. Small amounts, but consistent. The kind of thing that gets you disappeared in his line of work. Elena pulled out a tablet, scrolled through files. I also have documentation of him assaulting a maid member's daughter 2 years ago. Covered up, but not forgotten. The Calabrese family values reputation. They won't protect Logan if protecting him costs them more than cutting him loose. Ava felt something stir in her chest. Not hope exactly, but possibility. So what do? We build a case that has nothing to do with you. We present the family with evidence that Logan is a liability, and we make it clear that if anything happens to you, anything at all, every piece of evidence I have goes to their competitors, to law enforcement, and to the press. Elena's smile was sharp. It's called mutually assured destruction, and it's very effective. But he still made bail. He's still out there. For now. But bail can be revoked if he violates the restraining order, which he just did. Elena gestured to the broken window. We document this. File a motion. Get him locked up until trial. And while he's locked up, I have a conversation with his family about their options. Roman leaned against the wall, watching this unfold. You do this? I do this all the time. I just don't usually get paid for it. Elena looked at Ava. But in your case, consider it pro bono. I don't like bullies, and I especially don't like bullies with family protection. Ava wanted to cry, wanted to collapse into the relief of having someone competent take control, but she'd learned not to trust easy solutions. What's the catch? No catch. But you need to understand, this approach works because Logan's family values their business more than they value him. If that calculation changes, if he becomes more valuable than the risk, the protection goes away. Elena closed her tablet. So you need to be prepared for the possibility that this doesn't work, that you need a backup plan. What kind of backup plan? Elena glanced at Roman. He nodded almost imperceptibly. The kind where you disappear. New city, new name, new life. I have resources. People who specialize in making that happen cleanly. I already did that once. Then you know it's possible, and sometimes necessary. Ava thought about Sarah Mitchell, the woman she used to be, the woman who'd believed running was the same as freedom. She'd learned differently over the past 3 years. I don't want to run again. Then we make this work. Elena stood. I'll start filing motions tomorrow. In the meantime, you can't stay here. Roman's right about that. Ava looked around her apartment, at the boarded window and swept glass and the brick someone had thrown through her life like it was nothing, at the space she'd built to feel safe that turned out to be just another cage. Okay, she packed a bag with the essentials. Clothes, documents, the $4,200 in cash she kept hidden in a coffee can. Everything that mattered fit in a single duffel. Roman drove her to a building in a better neighborhood. Doorman, security cameras, the kind of place she'd never be able to afford on a waitress salary. The apartment was on the 8th floor, 2 bedrooms, clean and modern and completely impersonal, like a hotel room someone actually lived in. Guest room's on the right, Roman said, setting her bag down. Kitchen stocked. You need anything? Call me. I'll be down the hall. You live here? Yeah, bought the building 6 years ago, live in the penthouse, rent out the rest. He moved toward the door. Get some rest. We'll figure out next steps tomorrow. Roman, he paused. Why are you doing this? And don't say it's because of your sister. This is more than that. He was quiet for a moment. You remind me of someone I used to be, before I learned to ask for help. Before I understood that surviving alone isn't the same as living. He met her eyes. I don't want you to learn that lesson the hard way. After he left, Ava sat in the guest room and tried to process everything. 3 hours ago, she'd been standing in broken glass contemplating violence. Now she was in a secure apartment with a lawyer working her case and a landlord/protector down the hall. It felt too easy, like a trap she couldn't see yet. But she was too tired to fight it. Too tired to be suspicious. Too tired to be anything but grateful. She slept for 10 hours straight and woke to sunlight streaming through windows that didn't face a brick wall. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory returned in a rush. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from the diner. She called back. Where are you? Marcus sounded worried. You didn't show for your shift. I'm sorry. Something happened last night. Someone broke my window. Jesus. You okay? Yeah. I'm staying somewhere else for now. Can you cover me today? Already got Keisha coming in. You just worry about staying safe. He paused. Roman know about this? Roman's handling it. Good. That's good. Marcus sounded relieved. Call me if you need anything, and I mean anything. Ava showered and changed, then ventured out of the guest room. The apartment was quiet. Roman had left a note on the kitchen counter. At the diner, help yourself to anything. Elena will call this afternoon. Stay inside. The last part was underlined twice. Ava made coffee and stood at the window, looking out at Brooklyn 8 stories below. From this height, the city looked manageable, organized, like it made sense. She knew better. Her phone rang at 2 p.m. Elena. I filed an emergency motion to revoke Logan's bail this morning. Hearing set for Thursday. In the meantime, I had a conversation with someone who knows someone in the Calabrese organization. And they're not happy with Logan. The assault charge is embarrassing. The restraining order violation is sloppy. And the fact that he's targeting a waitress in a neutral establishment shows poor judgment. Elena's voice was brisk, professional. I made it clear that if Logan continues to be a problem, certain information about his activities might become public. They understood. So that's it? They'll make him stop? They'll apply pressure. Whether he listens is another question. Elena paused. I also did some digging into your background. Sarah Mitchell, married to Daniel Mitchell for 4 years, left in 2022 after multiple documented instances of domestic violence. Ava's stomach dropped. How did you? I'm good at my job, and I needed to know if there were any other threats I should be aware of. Elena's tone softened slightly. Your ex-husband filed a missing persons report 6 months after you disappeared. It was closed when you didn't turn up. He's remarried now, living in Pittsburgh. No indication he's looking for you. The relief was physical. Ava sat down hard on the couch. You're sure? As sure as I can be without direct surveillance, but I'll keep monitoring. If he shows any sign of trying to find you, I'll know. After the call, Ava sat in the quiet apartment and let herself feel the weight of what Elena had just given her. The knowledge that Danny had moved on, that she wasn't being hunted by two different men, just one, and that one was about to learn what happened when you push someone past their breaking point. The next 3 days passed in a strange limbo. Ava stayed in Roman's apartment, watching the city through windows she couldn't open, waiting for news. Elena called with updates. The bail hearing was moved to Friday. Logan's lawyer was filing counter motions. The Calabrese family had apparently told Logan to back off, but there was no way to know if he'd comply. Roman came and went, bringing food, checking in, offering quiet company when she needed it. He didn't push for conversation, didn't ask probing questions, just existed as a steady presence in her peripheral vision. On Thursday night, he knocked on the guest room door. "Can I come in?" "Yeah." He sat in the chair by the window, leaving space between them. Elena called. "The hearing's tomorrow at 9 a.m. She thinks we have a good shot at getting his bail revoked." "And if we don't?" "Then we move to Plan B." "Which is?" Roman was quiet for a moment. "I have people who can make Logan understand that continuing down this path is bad for his health. Not kill him, not even permanently harm him. Just make it very clear that the cost of bothering you exceeds any satisfaction he might get from it." "You'd do that?" "If necessary, but I'd prefer not to. Violence creates complications. Better to let the system work if it can." Ava pulled her knees to her chest. "The system didn't work for the 3 women before me." "No, but they didn't have Elena, and they didn't have me willing to back them up." He leaned forward. "I know you don't trust easily. I know you've learned that depending on people means owing them. But some debts aren't transactional. Some help is just help. Nothing's free. You're right, but the cost isn't always what you think. Sometimes the cost is just having to trust someone, having to accept that you're not alone." Roman's expression was serious. "That's harder for some people than paying money." Ava looked at him in the dim light of the guest room. "What do you want from me? Really? I want you to be safe. I want you to sleep without jumping at every sound. I want you to walk down the street without looking over your shoulder." He paused. "I want you to live instead of just surviving." "Why?" "Because everyone deserves that. And because I have the ability to help make it happen. And because 8 years ago, I didn't, and someone died." His voice was rough. "I can't fix what happened to Anna, but I can make sure it doesn't happen to you." The honesty of it broke something in Ava. She felt tears burn behind her eyes. "I don't know how to do this, how to let people help." "You learn. One day at a time, one decision at a time." Roman stood. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow, we end this." The courtroom was smaller than Ava expected. Fluorescent lights and cheap paneling, and a judge who looked tired before the proceedings even started. Logan sat with his lawyer at one table. Ava sat with Elena at another. Roman was in the gallery behind them, a silent presence she could feel without turning around. The hearing took less than an hour. Elena presented evidence of the broken window, photos Ava had taken, the restraining order Logan had violated, the pattern of behavior that demonstrated he was a threat. Logan's lawyer argued it was circumstantial, that there was no proof Logan had thrown the brick, that the restraining order had been based on a mutual altercation. The judge looked bored through most of it. Then Elena stood for her final statement. "Your Honor, this isn't just about a broken window. It's about a pattern of escalating violence toward a woman who has done nothing except refuse unwanted attention. The defendant has resources, connections, and a demonstrated willingness to use intimidation. If he's released, Ms. Carter's safety cannot be guaranteed." The judge looked at Logan. "You got anything to say?" Logan stood. "I didn't break her window. I've been following the terms of my bail. This is all a misunderstanding that's being blown out of proportion." "By the woman you assaulted?" "It was barely a touch. She hit me." "After you grabbed her, in front of witnesses, including 2 police officers." The judge shuffled papers. "I've seen enough cases like this to know where they go if I don't intervene. Bail is revoked. Defendant will be held until trial." Logan's face went white. His lawyer started to protest. The judge banged the gavel. "We're done here." Outside the courtroom, Elena turned to Ava. "That buys us time. Trial's set for 6 weeks from now. In the meantime, Logan's locked up and his family knows he's a liability." "What happens at trial?" "We present the assault case. With witnesses and evidence, we should get a conviction. Probably a year, maybe 18 months. Elena paused. But the real work is happening behind the scenes. I'm meeting with a representative from the Calabrese family tomorrow. Once they understand the full scope of Logan's problems, they'll cut him loose. And without family protection, Logan's just another violent criminal with a record. Ava felt something in her chest loosen for the first time in weeks. So it's over? Not quite. But we're close. Roman drove her back to the apartment in silence. When they pulled up to the building, he turned to her. You did good in there. I didn't do anything. Elena did everything. You showed up. You testified. You stood your ground. That's not nothing. Inside the apartment, Ava felt the exhaustion hit all at once. She collapsed on the couch, and for the first time in 3 years, she cried. Not from fear, not from stress, from relief so profound it felt like drowning. Roman sat beside her, not touching, just present. When the tears finally stopped, he handed her a glass of water. It's okay. You're okay. I killed someone once, Ava heard herself say, the words coming from somewhere deep and buried. Not literally, but I might as well have. Roman waited. There was a woman at a shelter when I first left Danny. She was there with her 2 kids hiding from her ex. Ava's voice was flat. She told me she was going back, that he'd promised to change. I told her that's what they always say, that it never gets better. She went back anyway. What happened? He killed her 3 weeks later in front of the kids. Roman was quiet for a long moment. That's not on you. I should have tried harder, should have convinced her to stay. You can't save people who don't want to be saved. You can only offer them options. He shifted to face her. You think I don't carry Anna's death? I do. Every day. But I've learned that guilt doesn't honor the dead. Action does. Making sure their deaths mean something by protecting the people we can protect. Is that what I am? Your chance at redemption? No, you're someone who deserves help, and I'm someone who can provide it. That's all this is. Ava looked at him, at the tired lines around his eyes and the careful way he held himself. You're a good man, Roman Castell. I'm a man who's done bad things for what I thought were good reasons. That's not the same thing. He stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow we figure out what comes next. What came next was a phone call from Elena 2 days later. The meeting with the Calabrese family went well. They're pulling all support from Logan. No lawyers, no bail money, no protection. As far as they're concerned, he's on his own. Just like that? Just like that. I showed them the evidence of his skimming, the assault on the maid member's daughter, the pattern of behavior that makes him a liability. They did the math. Elena sounded satisfied. Logan's attorney has already withdrawn from the case. He'll get a public defender now, and those lawyers are overworked and underpaid. His odds of beating the assault charge just dropped significantly. So what do I do now? You live your life. Go back to work. Move into a new apartment. Stop looking over your shoulder. Elena paused. It's over, Ava. Really over. But it didn't feel over. Even after Ava moved back to her own building with a new window, new locks, and a security system Roman insisted on installing. Even after she returned to work and fell back into the rhythm of shifts and customers and coffee that never stopped brewing, she kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. For Logan to make bail somehow. For Danny to appear out of nowhere. For the universe to remind her that peace was temporary and safety was an illusion. Instead, life just continued. The trial happened 6 weeks later. Ava testified. The cops testified. The jury deliberated for 3 hours and came back with a guilty verdict. Logan was sentenced to 18 months. His family didn't attend the sentencing. Nobody from his old life showed up. He stood alone in the courtroom, and for the first time, Ava saw him for what he really was. Not a monster, just a small, angry man who'd mistaken cruelty for power. She felt nothing watching him be led away in handcuffs. No satisfaction, no relief. Just the quiet certainty that this chapter was closed. Afterward, Elena took her to coffee. How do you feel? Empty, Ava said honestly. I thought I'd feel something, victory or vindication or something, but I just feel tired. That's normal. You've been running on adrenaline for months. Now that the threat's gone, you're crashing. Elena stirred her coffee. Give yourself time to adjust, to remember what normal feels like. I don't know if I remember normal. then learn it again, one day at a time. Over the next few months, Ava did exactly that. She kept working at the diner, kept training with Rita, though now it was for fitness rather than survival, kept living in her apartment with its new locks and new windows. She stopped counting things obsessively, stopped jumping at sudden sounds, stopped scanning every room for exits. The hypervigilance faded slowly, like a bruise healing from the inside out. Roman remained a constant. He came to the diner at the same time every day, ordered the same things, read his newspaper in the same booth. But now when Ava brought him coffee, sometimes she sat down for a few minutes. Sometimes they talked about nothing important. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence. "You're different," Keisha observed one day. "Lighter." "I feel different." "Good different?" "Yeah, good different." 6 months after the trial, Ava got a letter from Logan, forwarded through his prison facility. She almost didn't open it, almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. The letter was short. "I'm sorry, I know that doesn't fix anything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I'm getting help, therapy, anger management. I'm trying to figure out why I did what I did, why I couldn't just walk away. I don't expect you to care, but I thought you should know." Ava read it twice. Then she put it in a drawer and didn't think about it again for a week. When she finally did think about it, she realized she didn't hate Logan anymore, didn't fear him, didn't feel much of anything except a distant hope that he meant what he said, that he was actually changing. But that wasn't her problem anymore. He was his own problem now. She threw the letter away and moved on. 1 year after the assault, Ava was working a Tuesday night shift when the door opened and a man walked in. For a split second, her body tensed, old reflexes dying hard. Then she saw his face. Unfamiliar. Just another customer. "Sit anywhere?" she called out. He took a booth by the window. Ava brought him water and a menu. "What's good here?" "Everything's good, but the meatloaf's fresh today." "I'll have that." She wrote it down, brought his order to Marcus, went about her shift. Normal. Mundane. Beautiful in its predictability. Roman came in at 3 p.m. as always, took his usual booth. Ava brought him coffee. "How are you?" he asked. "Good. Actually good." "Yeah?" "Yeah." She sat down across from him. "I was thinking, it's been a year. Maybe it's time I stopped living like I'm still running." "What does that look like?" "I don't know yet. Maybe going back to school. I used to want to be a teacher before everything with Danny." Ava stirred her own coffee absently. "Or maybe just staying here, building something real instead of something temporary. Both sound good to me." "Yeah?" "Yeah. You deserve to want things again, to plan for a future instead of just surviving the present." That night, after her shift, Ava walked home without looking over her shoulder. She took the same route she always took, but for the first time she noticed things. A mural on a building she'd passed 100 times. A bookstore with a cat in the window. Small details she'd been too afraid to see. In her apartment, she looked around at the sparse furniture and bare walls. At the space she'd kept deliberately empty because attachment meant pain. Then she pulled out her phone and started shopping for art prints. Nothing expensive, nothing fancy, just something to make the walls less empty. It was a small step, barely significant, but it felt like everything. Over the next year, Ava's life filled in slowly. She enrolled in community college. 2 classes to start, education theory and child psychology. She hung pictures on her walls. She bought a plant that she somehow managed to keep alive. She went to Rita's gym not because she was training to fight, but because she'd made friends there. She started dating. Nothing serious. Just coffee with a guy from her psychology class. Dinner with someone Marcus set her up with. Learning how to trust again in small increments. Some dates went nowhere. Some ended in awkward goodbyes. But none ended with fists or shouting or that particular flavor of fear she'd carried for so long. Danny never found her. Logan served his sentence and was released to a halfway house in a different state. The Calabrese family forgot she existed. And slowly, Sarah Mitchell became someone Ava barely remembered. Not because she'd forgotten her past, but because she'd finally moved beyond it. The diner remained her anchor, the place where she'd learned to stand her ground, where she'd found people who cared about her without wanting to own her. Marcus became the older brother she'd never had. Keisha became the friend who told her hard truths, and Roman became something harder to define. Not quite a friend, not quite family. Something in between that didn't need a label. You ever think about doing something else? Roman asked her one day, almost 2 years after the trial. Sometimes, but I like it here. Even after everything? Especially after everything. Ava refilled his coffee. This place taught me that I could survive, that I could fight back, that I didn't have to accept being treated like garbage. The diner did that. You did that. You and Marcus and even Keisha with her blunt honesty. Ava smiled. This place isn't just a diner. It's where I learned what it means to have people in your corner. Roman's expression softened. For what it's worth, you taught me something too. What's that? That protecting people doesn't mean controlling them. That sometimes the best thing you can do is just show up and let them fight their own battles. He paused. Anna used to tell me I was too heavy-handed, that I tried to fix everything instead of just supporting her. I didn't understand what she meant until I met you. I'm glad I could teach you something. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence, and Ava realized this was what healing looked like. Not dramatic, not perfect, just small moments of peace strung together into something resembling a life. 3 years after she'd first walked into Sal's corner, Ava got her teaching certificate. She kept working at the diner part-time while she did her student teaching at an elementary school in Brooklyn. The kids were chaotic and loud and sometimes frustrating. They were also honest and resilient and surprisingly kind. One of her students, a girl named Maria, reminded her of herself. Quiet, watchful. The kind of kid who'd learned to read rooms before she could read books. Ava paid attention to Maria, made sure she knew there was an adult who saw her, who cared. One day, Maria stayed after class. Ms. Carter, can I ask you something? Of course. How do you know when someone's safe? The question hit Ava square in the chest. What do you mean? Like, how do you know if a person's going to hurt you or help you? My mom says you can tell by how they act when they're mad, but I don't know if that's true. Ava knelt down to Maria's level. Your mom's smart. People who are safe don't hurt you when they're angry. They might raise their voice or need space, but they don't hit. They don't make you feel scared. What if you're already scared? Then you find people who make you feel less scared. Teachers, counselors, friends, parents. Anyone who shows you that not everyone's dangerous. Maria nodded slowly. Are you safe? Yes, I'm safe. And if you ever need help, you can come to me, okay? Okay. After Maria left, Ava sat at her desk and cried. Not from sadness, from the overwhelming realization that she'd become the person she'd needed when she was younger. The adult who noticed, who cared, who intervened. That night she told Roman about Maria. You did good, he said. I just told her the truth. That's all anyone can do. Tell the truth and hope it helps. Ava looked at him across the booth, his usual spot, his usual coffee, his usual newspaper, constant as the seasons. Thank you, she said. For what? For not giving up on me. For staying even when I pushed you away. For showing me what it looks like when someone protects you without trying to own you. Roman set down his newspaper. You don't need to thank me for basic human decency. Maybe not, but I'm going to anyway. They smiled at each other, and Ava felt the last piece of her armor finally fall away. She was safe. Really safe. Not because she was hiding or running or making herself invisible, but because she'd learned to stand her ground, to ask for help, to trust that some people actually meant it when they said they cared. 5 years after leaving Pittsburgh, Ava Carter stood in front of her first classroom as a full-time teacher. 23 kids stared back at her with varying degrees of interest and skepticism. My name is Ms. Carter, she said, and I'm excited to spend this year with you. One kid raised his hand. Did you always want to be a teacher? Ava thought about Sarah Mitchell, about Danny and Logan and all the versions of herself she'd shed like snakeskin. No, she said honestly. I wanted to be a lot of things, but this is what I chose. And I'm glad I did. Why? Because everyone deserves to have at least one person who believes in them, who sees them, who shows up. She smiled. And I'm going to be that person for you. The kid nodded, satisfied. And Ava began teaching. That night, she went to the diner after her shift. Roman was there, as always. How was the first day? Good. Hard, but good. That's all anyone can ask for. Ava slid into the booth across from him. I was thinking, it's been 5 years. Maybe it's time I stopped working here. Roman raised an eyebrow. You quitting? Not exactly. I just don't need the money anymore. And I think it's time I made space for someone else who needs this place like I did. Fair enough, Roman smiled. But you're still welcome here. Anytime. For as long as this place exists. I know. That's why I can leave. She worked her last shift the following Saturday. Marcus made her favorite meal. Keisha gave her a card signed by all the regulars. Roman raised his coffee cup in a silent toast. And Ava walked out of Sal's corner for the last time as an employee, carrying with her the knowledge that she'd survived, that she'd fought back, that she'd learned the hardest lesson of all, that strength wasn't about fighting every battle alone. It was about knowing when to stand your ground and when to let others stand beside you. Years later, when her students asked if she'd ever been afraid of anything, Ava told them the truth. Yes, I was terrified. For a long time, I let fear control every decision I made. What changed? I realized that being afraid was okay, but letting fear make my choices for me wasn't. She paused. So I learned to be afraid and brave at the same time, to ask for help when I needed it, to stand up even when my hands were shaking. And that worked? Eventually. Not overnight, not perfectly, but eventually. The lesson she'd learned wasn't about fighting or running or hiding. It was simpler than that. It was about refusing silence, about choosing to be seen even when being invisible felt safer, about understanding that survival was important, but living was better. And she'd finally learned how to do both. The diner still stood on its corner in Brooklyn. The rule still held. Roman still came in every day at 3 p.m. for coffee and pie. But now when violence threatened, people didn't look away. They intervened. They called for help. They stood up. Because Ava had shown them what courage looked like. Not perfect, not fearless, just human, flawed, real. And that was enough.